Victoria stood in front of the bathroom mirror at the Ritz-Carlton in Atherton, California, staring at the small tube of red lipstick like it might explode. Her hand trembled slightly as she uncapped it, the crimson color looking impossibly bold against the gold tube. She had never worn anything like this before. Her entire life had been beige lip gloss and neutral tones, the kind of makeup that made you look polished but never noticeable. But tonight was different. Tonight, she was celebrating her first major promotion as a senior data analyst at Vertex Solutions, one of Silicon Valley's rising tech firms. Her coworker Brianna had practically forced this lipstick into her hand 2 hours ago, insisting that Victoria needed to mark this milestone with something memorable. Something that screamed confidence. Victoria leaned closer to the mirror, her fair skin looking even more luminous under the warm bathroom lighting. She was a beautiful black woman with a complexion that her grandmother used to say looked like honey, but she had spent most of her 28 years trying not to be noticed. Growing up in a strict religious household in Houston, anything beyond the basics felt like rebellion. Makeup was vanity. Bold colors were attention-seeking. She had internalized those messages so deeply that even now, living in California and completely independent, she still felt guilty for wanting to stand out. She applied the lipstick slowly, carefully tracing her full lips. The transformation was immediate and startling. The red made her look powerful, dangerous even, like someone who made her own rules. Her heart pounded as she pressed her lips together, evening out the color. She looked like a different person. Maybe that was the point. Victoria took a deep breath, dropped the lipstick into her purse, and walked out of the restroom. The restaurant was elegant and understated, the kind of place where tech executives and old money mingled over wine that cost more than her car payment. Her team had reserved a large table near the windows, and she could see them laughing and toasting from across the room. She started walking toward them, hyper-aware of every step. The red lipstick felt like a spotlight. She fought the urge to turn around and wipe it off. Across the dining room, Woo Bin sat at a corner table with 3 of his business associates, discussing shipping routes and contract negotiations. He ran one of the most powerful Korean business operations on the West Coast, an organization that controlled logistics, international trade, and private security consulting. People called it a mafia because of how tightly Woo Bin controlled every aspect, how his word was law in certain circles, and how crossing him meant being shut out of opportunities across multiple industries. He was not involved in anything illegal, but his influence was absolute. When Woo Bin wanted something done, it got done. No questions, no delays. He was 34 years old and had been groomed for this life since childhood. His father had built the organization from nothing, and Woo Bin had expanded it into an empire. He was known for being strategic, ruthless in negotiations, and utterly unshakable. People feared him, respected him. No one got close to him unless he allowed it. He was mid-sentence, explaining a timeline to one of his managers, when Victoria walked past his table. Woo Bin stopped talking. His eyes followed her without his permission. Everything about her captured his attention. The way she walked with her shoulders back but her hands clasped nervously in front of her. The contrast between her obvious discomfort and that bold red lipstick. She was stunning, but more than that, she looked like someone in the process of becoming. Like she was shedding an old skin right there in the middle of the restaurant. He could not look away. Victoria felt the weight of someone's stare and glanced to her right, her eyes locked with Woo Bin's. The connection was instant and electric. His gaze was intense but not threatening, confident, almost amused, like he knew something about her that she did not know about herself. 3 full seconds passed. Victoria's breath caught in her throat. Then she looked away quickly and hurried to her table, her heart hammering against her ribs. Woo Bin watched her sit down, watched her touch her lips self-consciously, watched her laugh at something her coworker said while sneaking glances back in his direction. One of his associates cleared his throat. "Sir." Woo Bin blinked and refocused on the conversation, but his attention was divided for the rest of the night. Every few minutes, his eyes drifted back to the woman in the red lipstick. He learned her laugh, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was nervous, the exact angle of her smile. By the time her group started gathering their things to leave, Woo Bin had made a decision. It was impulsive, uncharacteristic, dangerous even, but he did not care. He wanted to know her. Victoria stood up with her coworkers, still feeling those eyes on her. She had caught him looking at least a dozen times throughout dinner. Every time their eyes met, something in her stomach flipped. She told herself it meant nothing. Rich men stared at women all the time. It did not mean anything. But when she headed toward the exit, and one of his men stepped politely into her path, she knew it meant something. "Excuse me, miss." The man was sharply dressed, Korean, maybe in his 30s. His tone was respectful but firm. "My employer would like to buy you a drink." Victoria's mouth went dry. She looked past him to the corner table. Wu Bin was watching her with the faintest trace of a smile, not cocky, just certain, like he already knew what her answer would be. Every instinct from her old life screamed at her to say no, to politely decline and leave. Strange men in expensive restaurants were not safe. This was not appropriate. But that same defiant voice that had convinced her to wear the lipstick whispered something different. "What if you said yes?" Victoria looked back at Brianna, who was watching with wide eyes and a knowing grin. Her coworker gave her an enthusiastic thumbs up. "Okay," Victoria heard herself say. The man nodded and gestured toward Wu Bin's table. Victoria walked over on shaking legs. Up close, the man was even more striking. Sharp jawline, dark, intelligent eyes that seemed to catalog everything. His black suit was perfectly tailored, understated but clearly expensive. He stood when she approached, a gesture of respect that surprised her. "I am Wu Bin," he said simply. His English was flawless but carried a slight accent that made every word sound deliberate. "Victoria." "Victoria." He repeated her name like he was testing how it felt. Then his eyes flicked to her lips for half a second before meeting her gaze again. "That lipstick, first time." She blinked, startled. "How did you know?" "You keep touching your lips like you are not used to the feeling." He gestured to the chair across from him, which one of his men had already pulled out. "And you walk like someone who just made a decision that scares them." Victoria sat slowly, her mind racing. This man was observant, dangerously so. Wu Bin dismissed his associates with a subtle nod. They left immediately, no questions asked. Suddenly, it was just the two of them at the table. "I like people who scare themselves on purpose," Wu Bin continued, pouring her a glass of wine from the bottle on the table. "It means they are trying to grow." Victoria accepted the glass, her hand steadier now. "And what about you? Do you scare yourself?" His smile widened just a fraction. "Not often enough anymore. My life is very controlled." "That sounds lonely." Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe. "It can be." They talked for 2 hours. Wu Bin was mysterious about the specifics of his work, describing it only as international business and logistics, but he opened up about other things. Growing up between Seoul and San Francisco. Learning to navigate two cultures and never quite fitting into either. His love for classical music, especially piano compositions. His obsession with chess and strategy. Victoria found herself relaxing, talking about things she rarely shared. Her childhood in a restrictive religious community in Houston. How she had felt suffocated by expectations and rules. Her escape to California for college and the guilt that still followed her. Her struggle to figure out who she was when no one was watching. "You are still figuring it out," Wu Bin observed. "That is why the lipstick matters." "It is just lipstick." "No," his gaze was serious now. "It is a choice, a small rebellion, the first of many, I think." Victoria's chest tightened. This stranger saw her more clearly than people who had known her for years. When the restaurant staff started giving subtle hints that they were closing soon, Wu Bin walked her to the lobby. He did not ask for her number, did not suggest they meet again. He simply looked at her for a long moment and said, "I will see you again, Victoria." It was not a question. It was a statement of fact. She did not know whether to feel relieved or disappointed. If you were Victoria, would you have been brave enough to wear that red lipstick? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you are enjoying this story so far, hit that like button and subscribe if you have not already. Trust me, you will want to see where this goes. Now let's continue. Victoria could not stop thinking about him. For 3 days, Wu Bin occupied space in her mind that should have been dedicated to work, to her new responsibilities, to anything else. She replayed their conversation on a loop, the way he looked at her, the things he said, the certainty in his voice when he told her they would see each other again. She had not given him her number. He had not asked, so how could he be so sure? On the 4th day, Victoria had a morning meeting in downtown San Jose with a potential client. She arrived early and decided to grab coffee from a small shop near the office building. The place was busy, filled with tech workers and business people getting their caffeine fix before meetings. Victoria stood in line, scrolling through emails on her phone, trying to focus on work. She was wearing minimal makeup today, just a tinted lip balm. She felt like herself again. Boring, maybe, but safe. "You are not wearing the red lipstick today." The voice came from directly behind her, low and amused. Victoria's heart stopped. She spun around. Wu Bin stood there in a black turtleneck and tailored slacks, looking annoyingly perfect for 9 in the morning. His expression was calm, but there was something playful in his eyes. It was just for that night," Victoria stammered, her brain struggling to catch up. "Shame," he stepped up beside her as the line moved forward. "It suited you." "What are you doing here?" she asked, trying to sound casual and failing. "I have a meeting nearby. I needed coffee." He glanced at the menu board. "This is a good place. I come here often." Victoria studied his face, looking for signs that he was lying, but he seemed completely sincere. "This seems like a strange coincidence." "Does it?" Wu Bin's smile was barely there, but she saw it. "Maybe the universe wants us to talk again. Or maybe you had someone find out my schedule." "That would be excessive," he paused, though not inaccurate. Victoria's jaw dropped. "You are serious?" "I wanted to see you again. You did not give me your number, so I took initiative." He said it so matter-of-factly, like tracking down someone's location was a normal thing to do. "That is borderline stalking." "Borderline," he agreed. "But I am here now, and you do not seem particularly upset." He was right, which annoyed her. She should be upset. She should walk away. Instead, she said, "You are very confident." "I know what I want." The barista called for the next customer. Wu Bin ordered an Americano and then looked at Victoria expectantly. She sighed and ordered her latte. He paid for both before she could protest. They ended up sitting together at a small table by the window. Victoria told herself she would stay for 10 minutes, just to be polite. An hour later, they were still talking. This conversation went deeper than the first. Wu Bin told her about the pressure of living up to his family's legacy. How his father had built their organization with his bare hands, surviving prejudice and violence to create something lasting. How Wu Bin had been trained from age 10 to take over. Strategy, negotiation, control. He had no room for mistakes. "That sounds exhausting," Victoria said softly. "It is." Wu Bin stared into his coffee. "But it is my responsibility. My father gave me everything. I owe him this." "What about what you want?" He looked up at her. "No one has asked me that in a long time." Victoria felt a pang of sympathy. She told him about her own struggles with family expectations. The church community that raised her had very specific ideas about what a good woman should be. Modest, obedient, quiet. She had checked all those boxes for years until she could not breathe anymore. Moving to California was supposed to be freedom, but she still felt trapped by the need to be acceptable. "You wore that lipstick because you wanted to feel dangerous," Wu Bin said quietly. "But you are afraid that if you let yourself be dangerous, you will lose control." Victoria stared at him. He had just articulated something she had not been able to put into words. "How do you do that?" "Do what?" "See people so clearly." "It is my job to read people, to understand what they want and what they fear." He leaned forward slightly. "You want freedom. Real freedom, but you have been controlled for so long that you do not trust yourself with it." Her throat tightened. "And what do you want?" Wu Bin held her gaze. "Right now, I want to keep talking to you." Victoria's phone buzzed. Her meeting was in 15 minutes. She needed to leave, but she did not want to. "I have to go," she said reluctantly. Wu Bin nodded and stood when she did, always that old-fashioned respect. As she gathered her things, he pulled out a pen and wrote something on her coffee cup sleeve, his phone number. "When you are ready to feel dangerous again," he said, handing her the cup, "call me." Victoria took it, her fingers brushing his. The contact sent electricity up her arm. She walked to her meeting in a daze. The cup sleeve felt like it was burning a hole in her bag. Victoria did not call. For a week she carried that coffee sleeve in her purse, looking at the number written in neat, precise handwriting. She thought about him constantly, during meetings, while cooking dinner, at the gym. His face appeared in her mind at random moments, along with his voice saying things that made her feel seen and exposed at the same time. But she did not call. Brianna noticed her distraction at work. "You have been weird all week. What is going on?" They were in the break room, and Victoria was staring at her sad desk salad without eating. She sighed. "I met someone." Brianna's eyes lit up. "The guy from the restaurant, the one who bought you a drink." "Yeah. And I do not know. He is intense and mysterious, and he somehow found me at a coffee shop, which should be creepy but was actually kind of flattering." "Girl, he is into you. What is the problem?" Victoria shook her head. "I do not know anything about him, not really. He is involved in some kind of international business, but he is vague about details, and people treat him like he is important, like scary important. Rich and powerful, I see the issue." Brianna's tone was sarcastic. "I am serious. What if he is dangerous?" "Is your gut telling you he is dangerous?" Victoria considered that. When she was with Wu Bin, she did not feel unsafe. She felt challenged, seen, excited. "No." "Then call him." Before Victoria could respond, her desk phone rang. It was the front desk security guard. "Ms. Victoria, there was someone here asking about you." Her stomach dropped. "What?" "A man, Korean, I think, expensive suit. He did not give a name, just asked if you worked here and what your role was." "What did you tell him?" "Nothing. We do not give out employee information. I escorted him out, but honestly, he did not seem bothered. Just thanked me and left." Victoria felt cold. "When was this?" "About 20 minutes ago." She thanked him and hung up. Brianna was watching her with concern. "What was that about?" "Someone came here asking about me." "Who?" "I do not know, but I think it is connected to Wu Bin." That night, Victoria sat on her couch in her small apartment in Mountain View, staring at her phone. She had pulled out the coffee sleeve and typed the number into her contacts, but had not pressed call. Her mind raced with possibilities, most of them bad. Finally, she called. He answered on the second ring. "Victoria." "Why did someone come to my office asking about me?" She did not bother with pleasantries. "Because I wanted to make sure you were safe." His tone was calm, like this was a completely reasonable explanation. "Safe from what?" A pause, longer than she liked. "From people who might want to use you to get to me." Her blood turned to ice. "What does that mean?" "It means that I have enemies, Victoria, people who watch me, and if they see me interested in someone, that person becomes a target." His voice softened slightly. "I should not have approached you, but I could not help it." Victoria's hands were shaking. This was too much, too fast, too dangerous. "I think we should not see each other again." The silence on the line stretched out. Then Wu Bin spoke, his voice quiet but firm. "If that is what you want, I will respect it. But know this, I do not make mistakes about people, and you are someone worth the risk." Before she could